Good evening, brothers and sisters of the Briar. A lot of smoke here. Well, it's been a very nice day. This is Professor Jeremiah. I don't know if you can hear it right now. We're just now starting to get some rain. It's been very bright, sunny skies all day today and yesterday as well. But this evening we're getting a little rain, and I can hear it on my tin roof here at the old cabin. I'll tell you a funny story that happened to me last week. I was on my way to the cabin, and this is just a basic country road that comes down into the area where it's located. And I always drive right at the speed limit or just within a couple of miles over, sometimes a couple of miles under. So I know I make people upset at times. But anyway, this particular day last week, as I'm on my way down, this pickup truck shoots out from around me. It's a double-laned road, flies by. I, of course, didn't make any eye contact down here in this area. You don't want to do that when somebody passes by you. Though I'm pretty sure I shouted out to myself, knowing the guy would never hear. But I'm like, run with it, buddy. And so, I figured, well, a lot of people were impatient. I think it was around 5 o'clock or so, 4:30, 5 o'clock. So, probably just gotten off from work. But as soon as the guy's in front of me, he then starts to slow down. I'm like, oh, man. Now this guy's, trying to show me, hey, I'm going to teach you a lesson for driving the speed limit down here. And in this area, there's deputy sheriffs all over the place. So I don't know why anybody would speed, because I see cars pulled over all the time. Well, anyway, as soon as the guy starts to slow down, he keeps slowing until it comes to a full halt in the middle of the road. Partly from my experiences in Nigeria and just life experiences taught me that as soon as the guy started to come to a halt, I stopped far enough back that I could make a U-turn and get out of there, because I didn't know what was about to happen. And the next thing I knew, the guy jumps out of the cab of his truck and starts motioning for me to get out. He has a very perplexed look on his face, and I wouldn't say angry, but just I really felt like this wasn't a good situation. And so, anyway, at that, he's motioning for me to get out, and I sit there and, I'm like, no. I shake my head, and he motions even stronger for me to get out, and I shake my head again, and I think this goes on maybe 3 or 4 times of him motioning for me to get out until finally throws his hands up. And he's like, you're leaking fuel. Your gas tank is leaking. And I'm thinking, well, that should have been the first thing you said when you got out. And the guy walks back, disgusted at me, and hops in the cab of his truck and takes off. Well, I'm thinking at that point it's probably a good thing that I had stopped smoking my pipe about 5 minutes before, and only stopped smoking because I had run out of tobacco in the pipe. But anyway, I drove maybe another 50 yards so I could get off the shoulder, onto the shoulder of the road. And so when I did, I walked to the back of the truck, and it's a Jeep Wrangler. And so I could see where some fuel had been leaking out. I wasn't leaking any at the moment. And it was at the back left passenger side. And there's like at the fender wall, there's a little plastic skirt that seals that area up. And I pulled that down, and I could see where fuel was leaking. And when I pulled that little plastic skirt down a little bit more, a little bulb dropped out. And it's sort of like the bulb on a blood pressure cuff that you pump it up with. And so I could tell by that some fuel had been coming out of that. It was connected to another hose, which looked like it ran to the fuel tank. And anyway, to make a long story short, I found out that little thing is a valve called the rollover valve. And it's supposed to hook up into a charcoal filter. And the purpose of it is if the Jeep was to roll over, it supposedly cuts the fuel off. That's at least how I understood it. And I even had shown it to a mechanic shortly after the incident, and he had never seen anything like that before. But that's what the internet said it was, and if the internet says it, well, it must be true. So anyway, I didn't go to the cabin that night because there's nothing past the point where I was. So you're just kind of entering no man's land except for just old fishing cabins. So anyway, I turned around and stopped every few miles to make sure I wasn't leaking. But the other thing that I figured is I had just topped off on gas. I mean, really just filled it all the way up. You know, the gas pump's clicking off and you keep going. I didn't have it coming out of the spout, but I filled it up pretty good. So anyway, I had to end up ordering this part because it was dry rotted, and I guess that's why it had come loose. But I thought that it was really wild. I wish the guy, the very first thing he said when he bailed out of his car should have been, "Hey, you're leaking fuel." But in this area, you just don't know. And I really figured that the guy must have had a bad day at work, gotten fired. Anything could have happened. And so the last thing I wanted to do is have a conflict with somebody. And to me, and kind of the mindset is if you can have a means of escape and flee the situation, that's better than letting it escalate. But anyway, now I'm sure somewhere down here there's some guy that's telling about this man whose life he was trying to save, and the guy kept refusing to get out of his car. But anyway, that was kind of my interesting story from last week. This evening I'm smoking my Missouri Meerschaum Church Warden. I just purchased this on eBay a few weeks ago. It's an egg shape. I really like how they're doing these where they have like an old rustic type look to it, as if, you know, somebody's been handling it for years. My first pipe, like many other people's, was a Missouri Meerschaum, and that was now many years ago. I guess it would have been 1989 or 90 when I bought my first pipe. But anyway, it's been pretty good. The only thing is when I first got it, before I started to smoke it, I ran a pipe cleaner with a little bit of alcohol through it, cleaned off the tip a little bit. You never know who's been handling your pipe. Also, I've heard before that when they drill the stem, sometimes it's not clean. And I'm not meaning Missouri Meerschaum, I'm just meaning anybody. And so you should always just kind of run a pipe cleaner through it just to make sure you got any fibers out of it or any little gunk stuff that might be in it. But I noticed that even though it was a tight fit, something didn't seem right up in here. And so as I started kind of blowing through it and checking it out after the alcohol had dried, I had a large amount of air pouring out from around the fitting of the stem. So I did take my pocket knife and I tried to work on it. Sandpaper would have been better, but I don't have any sandpaper here at the cabin, or not any that I could find right off. So it's still not perfect. I'm still feeling just a little bit of air, but I'll have to work on that in time. Other than that, the pipe's good. I'm actually smoking Yuletide in it this evening. This is the first time I've ever had Yuletide. So the first time smoking this particular pipe, and Yuletide as well. This came from Spokane Pipe Smoker from Nick. Thank you again. It's very nice. I like it. I'll definitely order myself some when I get a chance. Well, brothers and sisters, I just wanted to greet you this evening, share a glass of Alabama sweet tea with you, and smoke as well. So thank you very much for subscribing. The numbers have grown a lot more than I had realized until I happened to look when I was in town this afternoon, and I think it was at 91 subscribed. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Maybe I can do a contest when I start to get around 150. I'll have to do that before I leave the U.S., so I'll see where my numbers are at by this time next week and try to do a little contest before I leave the U.S., because once I'm in Nigeria, I'm not saying I won't do contests there, but it will be a little bit more difficult to do them, as I won't be able to mail things from Nigeria to the U.S. Oftentimes the mail just simply does not make it. I've sent a number of thank you letters to people who support my mission work, and I started realizing not too long ago that I don't think people are getting them. Anyway, I hope you have a good evening. I hope the rest of this week goes well for you and your family. This is Professor Jeremiah, thanking you very much for your videos, as I enjoy watching them all the time. And I guess I can just edit this out.